Hey friends, thanks for joining me today. Got a question for you. Does comfort food actually bring you comfort? And if so, how long does it bring you comfort for? I think that whole concept of comfort food is just a little alien to me. I just don't quite grasp it. Um, I I've struggled. I've had some things going on the past 5, 6, 7 years. I've had some struggles. I've had a lot of that. I've kind of gotten in my head a lot, and I've had a lot of anxiety, maybe even a little bit of depression. And I just still don't quite get that concept of comfort food because as it has been my experience, and this goes even back before I ate plant based or started being intentional about my health. And if I think back to every time that I've used comfort food, whatever you want to, however you define that, in the past, that it's always been kind of like I've never done crack, but it sounds like almost like what crack sounds like. The high is only very, very, very momentary. In other words, while you're shoveling the food in your mouth and it's hitting your tongue and you're actually experiencing those taste buds, yes. And sometimes I remember certain foods, like I say, before I was plant based, and I even remember certain foods when I had in the early years of being plant based. And I think about it, and it was like, as I was eating it, it's like, oh, this is so good, this is so good. But that pleasure, that high, that positive of it only lasted for a split second. And that's how people that use crack cocaine talk about it sometime. Like, and that's why it's dangerous when you're using something like that, because you're always chasing it. It lasts so little. It lasts such a short amount of time. And I heard somebody say something recently that might even explain why people struggle with food. And they said that the things that have the like they were talking about substances, but I think we could include food and other things in there. That the shorter of a high that you get from something, that the more addictive it is, because then you're going to constantly be chasing it. I think back even to when I first moved into the house where I'm living now, in the location. I've been here about a little over 4 years now. And when I first got here, it was right before football season. I remember the first football season I was living in the house. I ordered some of this Bloody Mary mix, not to mix with vodka, but I just always liked Bloody Mary. And I ordered like a natural Bloody Mary mixer. And even though it was natural, it had a ton of sodium in it, and it did have a few things in there that was not optimal. And I'd have them on Saturday watching football. That was it. And sometimes during football too, I would get one of these plant-based pizzas at the grocery store. I haven't had one of those in about 3 years, and it's not because I'm some sort of fanatic. It's just like I can't bring myself to do it, because all that stuff, there was so much sodium in the Bloody Mary stuff, and in like the pizzas, and also there were these Jamaican patties that I would buy, and there was just so much saturated fat and sodium in them that very shortly after I ate them, I don't like to exaggerate. I wasn't like I was like wrecked. It wasn't like I felt horrible. It wasn't like I was sick. But I was just very kind of, lethargic, blah. You could just feel all that saturated fat and sodium, going through your body. So what I've tried to do, and I'm going to keep this one kind of short today, just, use it however you see, is think ahead of time. Sometimes when somebody's going through something, where they feel like they need to use comfort food, they don't really have that time to think about it. So ahead of time, think about things that you really like that are not that bad that you could have as a comfort food. Like I say, I've totally, I don't know. I just eat my meals throughout the day. I'm kind of in a pattern, and it's not like a rut. I enjoy all my food. I just don't really snack or eat things outside of my meals. So the things that I do may totally not work for anybody else, because I've kind of come to find I'm an oddball with eating and everything else. Is the things that I like, maybe I eat a little bit more of it. maybe I include a little bit more fat in the meal than I normally would. There's things like maybe I'll make a little bit more of an extravagant ice cream than I normally make, put some things in there. But it's like when you're talking about comfort food, okay, let's take it right there. A lot of people will go to the grocery store and buy like a half gallon or whatever size or a pint. Yeah, I used to get a half gallon. I'd take a spoon, I'd sit down, I'd eat most of it. But most people think of ice cream as a comfort food. We have nice cream. Make it good. Make it with frozen bananas. Use ingredients you like. If you have a favorite flavor that you used to get at the ice cream store, see if you can't try to make that. If it's something savory, figure out a recipe for that. There's things out there if people like crunchy, salty, things like that. Kale chips. Now, I don't have a dehydrator. I made some years and years ago. I just kind of got to a point where it was just more work than it was worth, especially for a snack. I'm just not a snacker, but there's things you can do like that. If you have a dehydrator, or there's products out there, you could even buy some kale chips. I have done that. I haven't done that in years either, but I've got a couple of places around here that sell kale chips. But the point being is just see if you can't think ahead of time and maybe make better decisions. Because a lot of the food, and a lot of people go a lot heavier than what I do when they're maybe they're sad, they're depressed, they've had something happen, and they eat things that are really going to pull you down. And then, it's like I said with me, maybe you feel good for a minute, because seriously, think about it yourself. Answer it yourself. No matter, and maybe somebody's watching this that doesn't eat this way, but think about the best meals you've ever had. Think about your favorite meal. Think about the restaurant that you just love to go to. How long does the actual satisfaction and pleasure last from that? It's very fleeting. It is like those drugs that have a very short high. And then what happens, like the drugs, is you have a big crash afterwards. I'm not necessarily saying it's a crash and you lose energy. It can be an emotional crash. It can just be something where you get even more depressed or even more sad or whatever. So just maybe rethink the comfort food. Just think of the things that you use as comfort food now, and think about maybe just some healthier options that have some of the same characteristics. Like I say, whether it's sweet, whether it's salty, whether it's savory. I am using the word salty, but I'm using that kind of loosely. But I'm not meaning going out there and eating something heavy in sodium, but you can use certain little tricks to simulate something that's salty. But anyhow, in the end, that comfort food just tends not to be very comforting. So just thought I'd share a few thoughts on that today. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed, and have a beautiful day. Peace.